Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I am the boy who's going to give you a lot of information on Hong Kong Disney. My name is Derek. I just got back from visiting both Shanghai and Hong Kong Disney in March of 2024, and I have so much information to share with you. I had such an amazing time, but there are certain things and information that you should know about before you arrive, and I'm here to share with you all that I experienced and everything I think you should know. Some quick background information on myself. I am a solo traveler. I've traveled all over the world alone, and this was again a solo event for me. I've been to almost all the Disney parks in the world. I love Disney, I love traveling. I'm someone who really appreciates the Imagineering and architecture of Disney parks, and I never really get bored of them. I'm not just there for the merch, I'm not just there for the attractions, I like the full experience. I'm also vegan, so that also factors into my experience. So I've broken this down into a few sections. I feel like it's impossible for me to go over everything, but I'm going to try to really limit it to the things I think you should know, as well as the questions that I was asked on Instagram. So starting out, before you even arrive to the park, how do you plan this trip? I personally planned everything myself. I went directly to the Hong Kong Disneyland website. I purchased my tickets and my hotel directly through them. I didn't use any sort of third-party apps or websites personally. Like I said, I was there in March of 2024 and they had some pretty good deals. I believe they had 30% off of hotels if I stayed more than 2 nights, and they didn't have any discounts for the tickets. Let's start with flights. So I'm flying from the USA, and I'm going to assume that all of you are also flying from the US. If you're not, just adjust this to what country you're flying from. I'm also assuming this isn't your first time going to a Disney park. I'm going to be comparing this mostly to the US parks since I think that's what most people are familiar with. So the flights. When I was trying to book a flight to Hong Kong, the prices were completely outrageous and out of my budget. So to get around that, I decided to fly to Taiwan, which was the cheapest Asian country to fly to that I could find. I spent 5 days there, and then from there, I flew to Hong Kong directly. It was only $115 to fly to Hong Kong from Taiwan, so I saved about $1,000 by flying into Taiwan first and then Hong Kong. Obviously, you don't need to stay in Taiwan as long as I did, but by flying into a different country and then bouncing over to Hong Kong from there, you're going to be able to save some money. I booked my flight to Hong Kong after I arrived in Taiwan and had no issues booking my flight, and the prices were still very reasonable. I then did book an additional flight to Shanghai after I arrived in Hong Kong and did have some trouble with my credit card. I use a Capital One Venture card, so it is a travel credit card. I still ran into some security issues, so I probably would recommend booking all your flights before you get there instead of risking having trouble booking a flight once you're already in Asia. Like I said, it was only $115 to fly to Hong Kong from Taiwan. And after looking at a few other countries, it seems pretty affordable flying from country to country once you're in Asia. So find the cheapest country to fly into from your country and then get to Hong Kong from there. Let's talk about tickets to the park itself. So Hong Kong Disney sells a single-day ticket or a 2-day ticket. That's it. I assume they just expect their guests not to stay longer than 2 days. I purchased a single-day ticket and a 2-day ticket at the same time as I booked my hotel. The pricing is date-based pricing, but it's kind of confusing. So if you buy a single-day ticket, they have different tiers for how much the ticket will cost. I bought a Thursday day ticket, which was a tier 1 price. It was the cheapest. Friday and Saturday, however, were more expensive tickets. But if you buy a 2-day ticket, it doesn't matter what days you go on as far as the tier, the price remains the same. So I bought a 1-day ticket for Thursday, which was a tier 1 price. And the price for that was $81 for 1-day ticket to the park. I then bought a 2-day park ticket for $136 and went Friday and Saturday. So if I had bought a single-day ticket for Friday or Saturday, it would have been much more money than my Thursday day ticket. But because I bought a 2-day ticket, the price was a flat price instead of based on the tiers. I hope that makes sense. So if you want to go to the park more than 2 days, you're going to need to buy an additional single day or another 2-day ticket if you want to go for 4 days. I do recommend at least 2 days at Hong Kong Disney. I know I've heard from multiple people that the park is small and 1 day is enough. Personally, for me, it was not enough. I would never have had enough time in the park if I had just gone for 1 day, but I am also the kind of person that really loves to appreciate all the details and architecture and just wandering around taking photos of everything. So I think if you are the kind of person that just wants to run from attraction to attraction to attraction and doesn't really care about the storytelling of the park, maybe 1 day is enough. 2 days is going to give you a lot more time to relax, appreciate, and not be stressed about doing everything. Like I said, I bought everything straight through the Disney website. I know there are other sites that give you discounts. I personally didn't want to fuss with them. I just did it all myself. You also do need park reservations, just like in the US parks. What I did is I simply bought my tickets, and when I arrived, I had the cast members at the hotel, when I was checking in, book me my reservations. Since I was a hotel guest, I was guaranteed access to the park. So instead of doing it myself, the cast members were more than happy to set it all up for me. Let's talk visas. So if you were coming from the US, you do not need a visa to get into Hong Kong. Hong Kong is separate from mainland China. So if you were going to mainland China, you would need a visa. But since we were just in Hong Kong, no visa is required. You don't need to do anything. Your US passport will get you in for up to 90 days. I already had a Chinese visa since I had visited China in 2019. So they did ask for it, and I was able to give it to them. But I assume that if you told them, you're a US citizen, they would just be fine with that. One thing to note is your passport needs to not expire within a month of you leaving. Let's say you're arriving in Hong Kong in June. You need your passport to be good till at least July or August, preferably 3 months later, because you have up to 90 days to stay in the country. So theoretically, your passport needs to be good for those 3 months, but I believe only 1 month is enough. I did mention I'm vegan. I did email the hotel and park in advance, requested some vegan options for some sit-down dining I reserved, and they were more than helpful. They were incredibly gracious and informative. I was able to request specifically what I wanted. I was able to pick out my full menu for each meal I was going to have and know it was fully vegan, not have to be worried about any sort of language barrier or worried about me eating something I didn't want to eat. So that was really nice. I can only speak on behalf of my plant-based diet. If you're gluten-free or any other food allergy, contact them directly ahead of time. I think they will be able to help you a lot more than once you arrive. I think there's only so much they can do once you're there. If you give them some time in advance, I think they will be more than happy to go out of their way to make sure that they have what you need. So let's cover arriving and getting to the hotel next. Once you fly into the airport, Hong Kong Disneyland is very, very close to the airport. I'm talking 15 minutes by Uber. I personally Ubered everywhere. I had no issues. It was very affordable. I felt very safe. Again, I am an adult cis man, so take that for what you will. I'm also very small though. I'm only 5'4", so I'm not exactly intimidating or threatening, but I felt very, very safe. I never felt nervous or anything like that. But the Uber was only about 15 minutes, took me directly to the Hong Kong Disneyland hotel. Had no issues whatsoever. I think it was around $20 to $25, but that price could range depending on the time of year, time of day, etc. Like I said, I had a great deal when I was booking my hotel. I was looking at the Hong Kong Disneyland hotel. I saw that they had an amazing discount. I believe it was up to 30%. I believe that discount applied to all of the hotels as long as you were staying more than 2 days. So in the end, I ended up booking a sea view room at the Disneyland Hotel. My average price a night was around $250, which to me is an incredible steal. This is a deluxe hotel for $250 a night. And if you had booked the other hotels, it would be even cheaper than that. So comparing hotel prices to Disney World, so much more bang for your buck. These are really, really nice hotels for much less money. And you can walk to the park from Disneyland Hotel. So that's a super great perk. Now, once I checked in, everyone spoke English. I had no issues whatsoever. Everyone was super kind. That magic that you expect from all cast members, completely experienced that with all of them. When I checked in, they got my room ready. They gave me a little book, like a little passport book of all my tickets, all my keys. They wrote down all my information as far as my park dates, and they told me to bring all this stuff with me to the gates. So I made sure to always have my hotel key, my folio, and my tickets. They're all in there because theoretically that little booklet is also your park reservation. They write on there the dates that you're going to be going, so you always want to have that with you. Now, you do not need your passport with you when you go to the park. That is one thing I did ask. They said no, you do not need it. I was staying at the Disneyland Hotel. They had 24-hour room service. They had an amazing pool. They had 3 sit-down restaurants. There was no quick service, which was disappointing. They have a merchandise shop. They have a private men's and women's jacuzzi and sauna. It was an amazing hotel. I absolutely loved it. I would stay there again in a heartbeat. They do have 2 other hotels as well that I did visit. I went to the Explorers Lodge for dinner one night, and then I did go to the Hollywood Hotel as well on my checkout day just to explore it. All were beautiful hotels. My God, they were so gorgeous. They felt so much more modern and new than most of the things in Disney World. And just based on the pricing I paid for the Disneyland Hotel, which is the premier hotel, I can't even imagine how cheap those would be comparably. So staying from the Disneyland Hotel, you have a direct path to the Disneyland Park. It is so nice. It takes about 10 minutes. It's very, very quiet, very chill. It's so nice to have that quiet time in the morning and after park closed to walk back and just have some relaxation, decompressing because the parks are so stimulating. That little walk was amazing. Now, if you're staying at the Hollywood Hotel or the Explorers Lodge, I would take the shuttle. The walk there would probably be a minimum half hour. That's going to be a long walk at the end of the day. So just take the shuttle. It'll take you directly to where the Uber or train station drop-off is, and then it's just like a few minute walk from there. The merchandise shop at the Disneyland Hotel was incredible. They had exclusive merch that you could only get if you're staying there. Everything was stocked really, really well. Everyone was super kind. I found a lot of things in the park at the hotel, so that was kind of nice too. Moving on to getting to the parks. Like I said, you can walk to the park or you can take a shuttle. Obviously, if you're staying off-site, there is a train station very nearby. You can also take an Uber or taxi. Unlike at other parks, even Shanghai, Paris, and Disneyland, Disney World, they all offer you extra magic hours or early entry into the park, so you get time before the general public to enter the parks. Disneyland in Hong Kong does not offer that, at least not for free. You can pay to enter the park, I believe, up to 1 hour early. I did not opt to do that, but that is an option, and just from looking at the park from outside of the gates, no one was inside from what I saw, so I can only imagine how quiet and how much it might feel like you have the park to yourself if you book that. Like I said, I didn't do that. I kind of wish I did, at least for one day, but overall I didn't find it necessary. The parks were never so busy that I didn't get everything done that I wanted to. So you're walking along to the park. I was there in March. The weather was incredible. I think it was around 70 degrees Fahrenheit for a high and then a low in the 50s. So it was very, very mild. Slightly humid, but nothing unbearable. I really, really recommend March. I had a great time. I was able to wear sweaters, I had a jacket, I had short sleeves. So depending on the time of day, you really can just layer up or down as needed. One thing about Hong Kong Disneyland is there is no downtown Disney, no Disney town. There's no shopping district. So you walk directly from the hotel to the park. There's no shops, there's no cafes, there's no anything. So it's just direct path, no downtown Disney. A perk of staying at the hotel is there is an exclusive hotel queue for the park. I arrived typically an hour, 45 minutes before park opens, and I waited maybe 5 minutes once the line opened to get to security. So very, very quick. The general queue is much, much longer, so beware. Honestly, staying at the hotel, they do have a lot of good perks. Even if you can't get into the park early, that exclusive security line was really, really nice. Like I said, you don't need your passport to get into the park, and you can bring selfie sticks. I believe it says no selfie sticks on the website, but believe me, there was so many. Like, I'm not talking small tripods, I'm talking people setting up selfie sticks that were like 5 feet tall and doing their own pictures. I even saw people extending these 5 feet selfie rods above the crowd during fireworks. It was really, really obnoxious. No one was monitoring, no one was taking them from anyone. So just be aware, and also know you can bring them. At least when I visited, there was no restrictions whatsoever on selfie sticks or tripods. So once you go through security, they do quickly check your bag, and there is another queue to check your ticket. There's a separate queue for hotel guests again. So you get in your hotel guest line, they check your ticket, and then you're in, just like any other park. There is the railway with Mickey, or in my case, Duffy's face in the floral bed. And very, very similar if you have been to Disneyland, California. The park is set up exactly the same way. You walk in, there's Town Square, Main Street USA. It's all extremely familiar. There is small differences, which is really, really fun, but it's also very familiar. Let's say you're rope dropping. What do you go to first? So you have a few options. I would say, number one, if you want to meet Duffy, that is the best time to do it. There is a whole little playhouse that you can go and meet all of Duffy and friends. It seems like there was always 3 characters every day, and they did change. I'm not sure if they changed throughout the day, but on my first day there was 3 characters. The next day there was 3 different characters when I checked the app. So if you were interested in meeting a certain character, make sure you check the app first. They might not be meeting that day. If you don't want to meet Duffy and friends, I would say head over to Frozen. You could do Frozen Ever After, or you could do Oaken's Sliding Sleigh. Because it is so quick, you could probably rip through that ride really quick and then run over to Frozen Ever After and also do that ride. If you don't want to do Frozen, the next thing that you would want to do is get into the character meet line for princesses. That also gets very, very long, consistently about an hour, I believe, throughout the day. So if you're a person who likes to meet princesses, rope drop that. Otherwise, everything else in the park was pretty reasonable throughout the day. Now, they do offer Premier Access in Hong Kong Disneyland as well. If you're used to Disneyland or Disney World's Fast Pass or Genie Plus, this is different. Hong Kong Disneyland does have single attraction Premier Access. So like Frozen, both of those rides have a single option. You can just pay for that ride. They also offer bundles of 3 attractions. So they'll give you 3 attractions, a list of 6 or 7 that you can pick from, and you can skip the line at 3 of them. They also offer a Premier Access set of 8 attractions. So they'll give you a list of 8 or 9 or 10 attractions, and out of 8 of them, you get to skip the line at any time throughout the day. You don't have to book a time. You don't have to worry about scheduling it. You don't have to worry about any of that. You already have it in your app that you can just redeem at any time. So it's really, really convenient. I did book a single Premier Access for Frozen Ever After one day, and that was around $16 to give you an idea. 3 attractions cost $30, and then when I went, the 8 set cost $67. Hi, hello. I forgot to mention Photopass, and I feel like that's worth mentioning and talking about really quickly. So Photopass is available to purchase per day. You can't really purchase it for your whole trip like you can in the US. So each day is between $40 and $50, I believe. And how it works is you go to the park, you get your picture taken, and then they give you a card similar to how they would in the States, and then you can scan this card into an app. It's a separate app from the Hong Kong Disneyland app, though. It's a specific Photopass app. So download that, register, fill all that out before you get to the park, and then every time you get your photo taken, hand that same card to the photographer. They will add the photos to it, and then at the end of the day, you can buy all the photos attached to that card. Now, the important thing to do is try to use that same card every single time you get your picture taken, because if you end up getting multiple different cards, you're going to have to go to a counter to have them all consolidated, because you're purchasing the full day by card. So if you have multiple cards in one day, you're going to have to buy each one as a full day pass. So you have to consolidate them onto one day and then purchase it. You can also buy photos as a single, but the price is so much better if you just buy it for the full day. So just try to make use of it as much as you can. Another really important tip, if you're doing a character dining experience at a hotel, that is not included in a full day purchase. You need to purchase photos at a hotel separate than your photos at the park, even if they are on the same day. And that is something I didn't know that really irritated me. So even though they're on the same day, you would have to purchase both hotel photos and park photos as separate days. And it's also very important to scan your photos into the app, because at the end of the day, they say that your photos are all deleted. So you have to make sure they're on your app, and then they'll stay there until you decide to purchase them for a month or 2, I believe. Otherwise, it's just Photopass like you normally expect it. Everyone's really, really nice. I had a ton of photos taken. There's a lot of Photopass photographers, so you will have plenty of opportunities as well. Also, all the Photopass photographers were always offering to take photos with my phone as well. They really weren't pushing it all. You would always have the option of taking pictures with your phone and with the professional photographer. I think that's everything. On with the video. So what attractions are must-dos in Hong Kong Disneyland? If I was going to recommend attractions that you cannot miss in this park, I would say Big Grizzly Mountain, Mystic Manor, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Oaken Sliding Sleighs, Meet Duffy and Friends, the Iron Man Experience, and Jungle Cruise. I would say do all of them because they're all so unique and interesting to this park specifically that you can't do anywhere else as far as I know. You also cannot miss the Nighttime Spectacular Momentous. It is incredible. It is my new favorite fireworks show. I bawled every time. It was incredible. The music, the storytelling, the projections, they were so incredible, and it was such an enjoyable experience with so much space. Really never felt rushed or crushed, or that it was so busy that you had to get there so early. I got there about an hour each day before the fireworks, and it had plenty of space. Everyone sits before the fireworks start. About half hour before it starts, everyone stands up and gives about twice as much space as there was before, so you're able to move much closer if you want to. So what should you skip at Hong Kong Disneyland? I would say skip the daytime parade that is currently showing. It is really barely a parade at all. It's a couple characters dancing to the DLP Pride song. It's really not worth scheduling around. If you see it while you're on your way, great, but otherwise it's literally just characters waving on a float. Anything that's a clone to other attractions, I would say you can skip, like the carousel. You could skip Dumbo, the Orbitron. They're really not too unique. If you're limited on time and you have to make some cuts, that's where I would do it. PhilharMagic is exactly the same. It does not have the updated Coco scene, so even more so a reason to skip it. Frozen Ever After, this is a hard one. It is a clone of what's in Epcot, but it's very plussed and very much a true version of what the attraction should have been all along, in my opinion. Is it worth waiting an hour? No. I would say if you can rope drop it, it's great. If you don't have time to do it, I would say you're not missing anything. It is the same attraction, just plussed a little bit. Unless you really love Frozen, or if you really love that attraction, I would say you're okay skipping it. Watch online to get the idea of what's new. Otherwise, just go in Florida when you're there and it's not much different at all. The last one I say you can skip is Tarzan's Treehouse. It's on an island, kind of like Tom Sawyer Island, but it is very similar to the one that was in California. You simply walk through the attraction. It has some cool displays, there's some nice views, but it's nothing special. Okay, so let's move on to shopping and dining information. Overall, there is plenty of dining options in Hong Kong Disneyland. I was actually very impressed. Not only are there plenty at the hotel, but the park itself has quite a few spots to dine at. One of my favorite parts about the dining experience in Hong Kong Disneyland is that they use reusable utensils. So no plastic, no wood. They gave me real utensils that I left at the table and then they cleaned up afterwards. So less waste. That was really nice to see. Plant-based options were limited, but before I arrived, like I said, I had emailed the resort and ended up booking on each day of my trip a sit-down meal at one of the hotel restaurants. So each day I knew I was going to have a nice sit-down meal that was fully vegan. I wouldn't have to worry about finding something each day. It's something I highly recommend if you do have allergies or a specific diet. Have at least one meal planned out so that you know you're going to be fed. From there, you can find snacks, etc. in the parks. It wasn't too difficult. There weren't that many options for plant-based meals in the park. I did find a few small things, but knowing I had a sit-down meal each day took off a lot of the stress. Another tip I would say is bring your own tissues. I didn't see a lot of napkins or tissues available while I was at the quick service locations. A lot of people brought their own like wet wipes or tissues, so I would also recommend doing that. As far as shopping, there was so many shopping opportunities. There was plenty to buy. There was definitely no lack of merchandise. The merchandise was very different than in the US parks. There was no Loungeflies, very little Mickey merch. Almost everything was Duffy and Friends. Now, of course, they're going to have Goofy and Daisy and Pluto merch, but I would say the most popular and the most abundant was Duffy and Friends. If you're not familiar with them, just look him up before you arrive because you're going to be seeing a lot of Duffy and Gelatoni. You're going to see a lot of Stella Lou. So just research a little bit who these characters are, and maybe you'll end up loving them once you arrive. I know once I got there, I really felt the love for all these characters that I really wasn't too familiar with before, but because everyone around you loves them, you also start to kind of wonder, like, maybe I should start giving them a chance, and you end up really appreciating them because they are everywhere. They're on the stage shows, they pop up as character meets, they're on all the merch, so just be ready for less Mickey than you may expect. There's also not a lot of pins, there's a lot more plush, there's not a lot of backpacks, but there's a lot more keychains, so just a shift of what to expect will help you not be disappointed. Now, as far as sizing goes, just be aware. One shirt I did buy a small and it fit me great. I bought another shirt in a small and it was way too small. So just be wary that sizing may fluctuate. This is Asia. Sizing is different than the US. I had to size up 1 or 2. I normally am an extra small, but in Hong Kong, I was a small or medium. So size up 1 or 2, just to be on the safe side. I did end up having to exchange and they were fine with that. Now, the last section is just things that you should know and the questions I was sent via Instagram. This is a big one, guest behavior. Now, when I was there, the guests were very kind. They were very polite, I guess I would say, but there is zero personal space. Personal space in China is a luxury. You need to remember this. It is not impolite to them to be very close to you. It is not impolite for them to walk in your photo or just be in the middle of your frame when you're trying to take a picture of something. There's simply so many people all the time that it's impossible to not be in someone's photo or not be right up against you. It's just a different perspective on life. So if you're really hoping to get this amazing photo of the castle with nobody in it or a picture of the train with nobody in it, you're really gonna have to wait a long time because people will not wait for you to take the picture. Like, they will just walk right in the middle of you taking a picture. So just be ready for it. Try not to get too frustrated because it can be a little frustrating. It can feel rude, but it really isn't a personal attack. If you're going on a Saturday, beware. It is busy. And not only is it busy, there's so many kids. And if I have to say anything, the kids are the worst behaved. They are climbing on everything, they bump into you, they run around, they seem to have very little boundaries, so just be ready for that. But my Thursday and Friday experience was much more calm, much more adults, a lot more like young adults dressed up taking photos. Saturday flooded with children, and I would not recommend it. Let's talk payment quickly. So in the park, I almost 100% of the time use contactless payment. So they did accept Apple Pay with my Capital One Visa, and I also use Alipay. Now, Alipay is an app. You can download it, and you can upload your credit card onto the app, and then in the store, you can pull up a QR code, and they will scan your QR code, or the other way around, you can scan their QR code, and you can approve the payment. This was really common. It seemed like almost everyone used Alipay to pay for everything, but my Apple Pay did work. So now 2 questions that you guys sent in. Question number 1 was, do we need to worry about squat toilets? Well, first of all, if you're really worried about another culture and how they do things, you probably shouldn't be going. I think you need to be prepared that things won't be like they are at home and that you need to just adjust and be flexible. Now, regarding the squat toilets specifically, Disneyland had both Western and Eastern toilets, so no worries if you're really that afraid of squat toilets, you won't have to use them. I had another question about internet access. Now, Hong Kong specifically, you do not need a VPN. They have no firewall on social media, so you can access Instagram, Google, etc. No problems, just like you would at home. Now, if you're going to mainland China, you will need a VPN to get around the firewall. Wi-Fi in the park wasn't good. Wi-Fi in the hotel wasn't good. I would say it's fine as long as you're not moving around, but I noticed the second I would start walking, I would disconnect. And not only do you need to reconnect every single time, but every time you need to reconnect, you have to go through several prompts, and it drove me insane. I did buy an internet package before I arrived. I used the app Airalo, A-I-R-A-L-O, and I ended up buying a eSIM internet data package for both Taiwan and China, so I was able to use that throughout my whole trip, and I was able to top up the data as needed. I do recommend just buy a data package. The Wi-Fi was not reliable enough to not be frustrating. Unless you really enjoy disconnecting, then you probably won't need to buy data because there is Wi-Fi technically available. It just isn't reliable if you're moving around the park, which, when are you not moving around the park? I was asked if I was solo or did I go with someone. I did go solo. I had an amazing time. Then again, this is not my first solo trip. I've been all over the world as a solo traveler. If you're really nervous about traveling to Hong Kong or Shanghai or Taiwan, etc. alone, make some solo trips while you're at home first. Travel to somewhere closer alone. Travel to Florida or Orlando alone. I wouldn't recommend just flying across the world for your first time completely alone. I do think if your first time ever traveling solo is across the world, it might be really overwhelming and stressful. So I would say do some smaller trips first, and then when you have the confidence, then travel across the world and you will have an amazing time. I never felt in danger. I felt totally safe the entire time. China in general felt very, very safe. I honestly felt safer there than I would be, let's say, in New York or LA or Chicago after dark. I felt safer in China. I had a question about how to navigate between the hotels in Hong Kong. So, like I said, you can walk to the park from the Hong Kong Disneyland Hotel. You can walk to all 3 hotels from each other. So it's about a 10-minute walk from the Disneyland Hotel to the Explorers Lodge, and it's another like 5-minute walk from there to Hollywood Hotel. I had a question about navigating all my transportation. Once I arrived in the country, I just took Ubers everywhere. I used the app exactly the same as I did at home, had no issues whatsoever. Flights, I just tracked my flights. I just decided to fly into Taiwan, just looking at pricing, and then I found a reasonably priced flight from Taiwan to Hong Kong. And then I did end up flying to Shanghai after Hong Kong, but that's a whole different story. But taxis, Ubers, really, really available, super easy. I'm sure cast members at the hotel would also be happy to call you a taxi if you don't want to use Uber. Pricing, I would say for pricing, hotels were much, much better priced than Walt Disney World or Disneyland. So much more bang for your buck. The hotels are nicer for less money. I'm talking value to moderate prices for deluxe hotels. It's incredible. I highly recommend staying on site. Staying in the bubble is really, really nice. You get that exclusive line, get exclusive merch, and it's way easier getting to the park rather than having to do with a train or taxi the morning of. Hotel tickets are also a lot cheaper, but the park is just a single park and it is a lot smaller than Disneyland or Florida, so I think you're paying less money for less park. Food and merch, I found the merch was slightly cheaper. The food is about the same. Some of my sit-down meals were pretty expensive, but they were very, very nice. And my buffet was about the same price as a character buffet in the US. I think that's all the information I have for you. There's always more and more information you could use. So please don't rely on this one video. Do some more research, look around, read up, and then you'll be more than prepared for Disneyland. It's an incredible place. I think you'll have so much fun. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment. Now, next we're going to do the giveaway. In my last video, I announced a giveaway. So now I'm going to announce the winner. I did a random drawing. You can see in the video here. Congratulations to the winner. I will be shipping these out very soon. You won Chip 'n Dale Bumblebee keychain set, a Nick Wilde pen, and this Mickey Mouse luggage tag. Thank you everyone for watching. If you have any questions, leave them below. I have a similar video to this discussing everything Shanghai Disney next, so please subscribe if you want to hear about that. If you found this helpful, please click the like button. I have a lot of fun ideas coming up soon, so please stick around. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys. Ciao.